Hello everybody and welcome to another tutorial here on noisejunkies.net. In this Cinema 4D tutorial, we'll take a look at how to create an advanced shatter in Cinema 4D using thinking particles method. Here's the animation we're going to be creating. Cool, so as you can see there's some noise added and there's also the lens flare, and that was all done in After Effects later on. We are going to be focusing on the shatter and the reflection materials for this. And it is kind of a complicated process and you may not actually understand how this is different from my actual fringe shattering tutorial, but this thinking particle method allows you to create several particles that have different geometrical shapes, and it's also very automatic. You have a very wide control of where the particles will go, how they move, and it also involves the concept of morphing. So we'll go right now to involve that all. So the first thing I want to do now is to create a text here in the spine, and uh, I'll just call it text. Now I'll just actually be loyal to the original example and create a letter K. So here we have K, and as you probably already know, extrude NURBS. Okay, so now we have text, not surprising to anybody, but here we have a problem because in order for thinking particles to work, we really need it to be a polygon. What happens to the polygon in the text though is that it creates two caps, and that's kind of bad because that way we don't have a single object. So what we're going to be doing is to hold shift and then click on both caps and the extrude NURBS, make sure all is selected, and then command click or right click in the windows, and we're going to connect objects. So now you can see they've created this extrude NURBS in here, and I'm going to just make it invisible, and you can see this new extrude here that you can see is already everything. So you can actually delete this. I wouldn't though, because then you can make changes later on. Let's just call text invisible, and we'll call this K. So K is the one we're going to be morphing into the thinking particles one. Now for the thinking particles to work, you need to morph one object to the other. So we're going to go here on the objects settings, and I'm going to choose a platonic object, and we are going to be dragging more or less in here and make it kind of big. Sorry, and you can use the top view as well. Here's the top view as well. And I apologize for background noises and doors opening and that stuff, but as you probably saw in some blog posts, I'm not home right now. I'm actually pretty away from home, and there's a lot of people around me, so I'm trying to do my best in here. In the platonic, also make it edible, and now we have the two polygons in here, and that's the only way thinking particles is going to work. And now that we have both objects to be morphed and they're aligned properly, as we can see in here, we can go to objects, thinking particles, and particle geometry. Now this is a very powerful dog in here, and we are going to be dragging platonic and K, both of them together, to the particle geometry. One very important step though that you might forget later, so write that down, is to come to thinking particle settings, and here you have the particle group all. Click and drag that, click on the particle geometry here first, and now click and drag that to the particle group in here. So you see that the particle group is set to all, meaning the platonic and the K. So pretty much you're going to the settings, the thinking particle settings, and just making sure that everything that's inside the particle geometry is being classified as thinking particles, and now they are. So one last thing I want to do right now is to command click on particle geometry, and we are going to Cinema 4D tags Espresso. Now this is a very famous concept here in Cinema 4D, and a lot of people have advanced tutorials on that, so you may have been a little bit afraid to face it, but you'll face it now. No fear, Espresso. And Espresso pretty much is a node based plugin for Cinema 4D. You have the grid in here, and when you command click you have new node. Now there's a lot of different nodes in here, and we can just kind of go forever and create some crazy things, but right now we're going to be going to thinking particles, which is what we're working on. And here in thinking particles you also have a lot of things, But we want to generate particles, and we're going to be using p-blurb. So once you click on p-blurb, you have this little node in here which you create, and the blue is the input, the red is the output, but you don't need to worry about that right now. All you need to worry about right now are the p-blurb settings, which you can see over here. So here you have objects, and of course we're going to be dragging both of our thinking particle objects, the platonic and the K. So both of them are part of the b-blurb. And if you look at your view right now, you can see already some stars here, meaning particles. So things are starting to happen. I'm going to close the settings right now for Espresso, and I'm going to the timeline. And here you have the animation phase. I am going to set a keyframe, animation, add a keyframe for 0, and in 90 I'm going to complete the phase by saying 100. And again, I'm going to add a keyframe for that. So it goes from 0 to 100. Let's play to see what happens. Okay. Alright, so we can see the platonic moves and forms the exact shape of the K, but we still see both of them. Well, guess what? You can actually shut the eye off for both the platonic and the K. And yes, you go to the first frame, you only have the platonic, it morphs magically into the K. So it is pretty cool. And you have a lot of settings you're going to be playing right now. My favorite one, of course, I'm going to click on one of the objects, and for the count, instead of 5, I'm going to say 500. And what that does is number of particles in which a number of pieces, I should say, that move from one place to the other. And also the K, again, 500. Ooh, it's going to be tough. So there's a lot of particles. Some of them are kind of lost in the way, but it makes it more interesting. Also the thickness, we can set it to 5% instead of 1. In here, 5% as well. And as a result, some pieces are gonna be thicker than others. Doesn't do a lot of difference really, but it does make a difference in the end. So let's just go to frame 90, and here we have the complete K, as you can see. So that's pretty much how the particle generation works. It's not that complicated at all, is it? And the last thing I did for the explosion was actually to create a new material that was kind of reflective. So I chose a tone of green like that, and you put it like that, and reflection only 10%, and that way it makes it slightly reflective. Oops. Click on objects, and let's just drag it to the particle geometry. Very cool. And we can just place a light in a middle position like that. So now we'll go here and we'll play the animation, and we'll also move the camera in a strategic position. Hold on. So let's just move into a strategic position like that. And as you can see, you can already get pretty cool renders. So that's it. Just make sure the camera is well positioned in here. And to create another ladder, you just do the exact same procedure. Not very hard. Once more. Now, once again, sorry for some of the background noises you probably heard. And I'll try to keep making tutorials in the summer. As I told you in the blog post, I'm a little bit busy, but I'll try my best to keep updated with some Cinema 4D and keep sending requests, and keep checking noisejunkies.net and the Noise Junkies music database. So thanks very much. I hope you guys have enjoyed this tutorial, and we'll see each other next time.